been well. Sorry for the little missing slice right there. But welcome back to another video. I am going to tell the tale of, what you guys voted for. You wanted to hear about my experience at a top 5 university in computer science and what that's like. So I'm gonna crack this open and we're going to enjoy this together. That was probably really loud. Cheers. So yeah, I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. I'll do that later. I went to University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and at the time of me going, I think it was ranked as high as 4th on most USA university sites. It was, when I got in, I didn't realize how significant it was. I just assumed, oh, okay, I got in, but after hearing my friends who were rejected, I'm like, oh, wow, okay. I guess it is a pretty big deal then. I wanted to do computer science because I like video games. That was it. And at the time, I was heavily into video games, so, I just wanted to be a part of that. Oh yeah. This is the meat lovers pizza. Pepperoni, sausage, and bacon. But I like the way they do their bacon. They chop it up really fine and put it in the oven so you get that crisp. I really like. I was debating on if I should get like the half pepperoni pizza and half breadsticks, but I decided against it. This is a classic in my family. And I couldn't pass it up. So I'm gonna go through each of my classes, or maybe I should go in terms of difficulty. Yeah, I'm gonna do that instead. Lead up to how crazy it got. Just making sure each piece has some sausage. Pause. Oh. This is a 0 sugar Pepsi if you didn't see earlier. So, very last, in terms of, actually no, sorry, I'm flip-flopping. I'm gonna tell it in chronological order because I feel like that makes the most sense. was supposed to take a software studio course and a theory class. Coming from a background of no programming experience whatsoever, the first course was okay, I'll say, in teaching me the fundamentals. I felt like if you're new to programming, you basically had to live in office hours, and I didn't enjoy that. But if you really grind it, you could be at the level of programmers who already knew what to do. On a scale of 1 to 10 comparative to everything else that class had to offer in terms of difficulty, I would give it about a 3. Actually a 3.5. Because sometimes it just felt like the sausage keeps falling a little. It just sometimes just felt like the problems were getting a bit hard and they weren't teaching some concepts to help us. But I think that was kind of the point, to think outside the box for yourself. And then again, it was college, so it wasn't like they're going to tell you the answer. So I passed that class with a B minus. So I would say pretty decent start. On to the software studio class. I actually ended up dropping it earlier on next semester after I took CS 125. I dropped it because the grading scale in that class frightened me. So there was a day my professor came in and told us that if you had a 66%, you had a B plus in the class. And that is something that's going to come up a lot in this video. By this point, I was trying my hardest, but I just felt like I wasn't, my grade was well below a 66%, let's just say that. So I ended up talking to my professor. And I ended up dropping the class. But when I did take it, it was odd. So this class was completely graded by TAs, teaching assistants. So whatever they said was kind of your grade. My teaching assistant was pretty cool. He was pretty sure all of them had prior programming experience. The purpose of this class was to have your code critiqued in a sitting, in a small session, from the way you named your variables to how you spaced out your code. And it was pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie. Because for many, if not all of them, I struggled to even come up with a solution to solve it. God, this pizza's so good. My TA was very, very lenient, and I spent like a very long just session, like late night session, just working over my code in an open lounge in my dorm, wearing pajamas, drinking coffee and pizza. It was pretty bad, but my TA was just looking for me to implement one extra feature, and I was able to do it for my final project. So I ended up getting I want to say a C+, which for me is very great considering that this was taking the prior knowledge I have from my introductory class and just whiffing it on the spot. So yeah, really happy about that. It's weird to say that a C+ is, good for me because I came from getting straight A's, but in college the ball game is completely different. Next we move on to my first theory course, CS 173, which is a discrete structures course. And essentially there's no programming, it's just like mathematical proofs. And I think this is where I started to change in terms of how I used to think. I feel like programming does something to you to where if you haven't been experienced to it before, it changes the way you view problems. This course felt like I don't even know. It felt like a math class. The best way I could put it, it felt like a math class. And we had 3 exams. No, we had weekly exams, which is probably a good thing in hindsight. Because later on there's going to be a course that I'm not going to talk fondly about. But I think we had like 13 exams. I want to say, 13 exams. And each of them were equal grading. So even the final was the same percentage, so that was good. But the material of that class was like geometry, except you're using it for logic. Like and or and logic gates and stuff. It was weird. old school. She only used chalkboard. You had to be in attendance or you didn't get the material. So it was the closest thing I had to like a college, like a 20th century college class. All in all, I got a C plus in that class too. And so far it looks like everything was pretty peachy. Well, that was until sophomore year hit. So the next class I'm going to tell you guys about was it wasn't even hard. That's the reason why it kind of gets under my skin. It was just a very, very important class, and it was the class that basically decided if you get an intern this summer or not. CS 225, data structures. On a scale of 1 to 10, it's about a 6 in difficulty, but in terms of workload, it's like an 8. At any given point, you had 3 different assignments due. One was extra credit, which you had to do if you wanted a really good grade in that class, because you weren't going to pass every single test, and that's something that I had to figure out. There were exams. We had 2 different types of exams, which is programming exams, which I notoriously did bad at, and theory exams, which I did a lot better at. We had these assignments called MPs. It was like a week-long project, and if it was super long, you would get 2 weeks, and they would grade them in parts. And in the beginning, I got cooked. Like, guys, like, that was the first time the class had made me just shut down. So I ended up dropping that class. This is the only class that I dropped 3 times. Think about that. For 1.5 years, I was taking this class. I think my kryptonite was that I tried to take too many classes at once, and it was just unbearable. Second time I took it, I was actually gonna pass. Well, pass with at least a C, but we had this thing where our grade was dependent on a machine, and the machine basically messed up because I think I put something different in it that I wasn't expecting. And it didn't compile. When your code doesn't compile in this class, you get a 0. So on the very last project of the year, got a 0 and got a D- in the class. Crazy enough, I was supposed to fail that class, but I think my professor took a lot of pity on me and gave me the D- just so that I can move on. But the funny thing is that when I came back the next semester, he looked at me like, "What are you doing here? I passed you." It was kind of funny, but the third time I took it, it was still kind of hard, but I passed with a C, just baseline C, no C plus or anything. Sorry about that. Now we go on to computer architecture, CS 233. This was it started off very easy. I thought it was actually going to be cool. Like, in the beginning, the whole class is like programming on like the basis, the most basic form of computer. So we're using like very primitive programming languages to program the simplest things. But funny enough, even though I rate this class, it's not that hard. I passed with a D, so like I didn't think it was that hard, but I think I bombed the final, so yeah. The funny thing about computer architecture is that many people thought we were doing a lot of hardware stuff, but nah, we weren't. We were just doing it all on software. Now, if you made it this far, you're in for a treat now. The next class was CS 241 system programming. This was the first class that made me cry. Because it was the most unguided form of programming I ever had. So basically, you know those machine problems from a few classes ago? They did that again, but they gave you a blank sheet, a blank file, and said, okay, do it. When you have boilerplate code, like code that kind of guides you, it makes it so much easier. But this class was so open-ended with your approach. It's like I froze up. I can't explain it. This class was so open-ended, you guys. It's like being in like a white like prism, and then someone telling you to like say, oh yeah, build a tree. That's how I felt at times. Ironically, around this time, something happened in the world that prevented me from completing this class. Wink, wink, my last needed class that same semester. And funny enough, the very last class I ever had to take was the easiest class ever. It was so easy. It was so easy that, and because it happened during March 2020, if you had a C, you had an A. If you had a B, you had an A plus. I already had an A in the class, so I just got a super A, I guess. And he gave out extra credit on top of that. It was just like programming, compiling other languages. It was super easy. So there was so after that fall semester, I took the class again, and I guess they made it easier as well. I guess they made it easier then because for my semester, because they were still catching up with the whole, pandemic thing. So they're more lenient than how they were in prior semesters. But I think maybe just because of the environment, I feel like I got the most out of that class specifically. And I that was like my best ever grade in my class. I mean, besides, the last class I was supposed to take, that was super easy, but I got a B plus. I did really well, and I'm proud of myself to this day. Now I do have a last class, but that deserves its own video because that class is the hardest class I've ever had to take. Ever. If I had to take it right now, I don't think I would pass at all. Hope you all enjoyed. This is a super duper long video for me, but I hope you guys really liked it. I'll see you guys in the next one.